Hello, it's me, and it's now time to roll out the Hexaphobic, just in time for Halloween, at least at the time of taping this. So the Hexaphobic, this is one of Traiphum's masterpieces here. It's the 6-layer Master Morphinx style puzzle, pyramidal style puzzle. It's basically a pyramidal transformation of a 6x6. So basically it has the even-numbered problems that could occur with this, such as parity. We've seen the 7x7 version of this, we've seen the 5x5 and the 4x4. What was interesting with the 4x4 is we saw a very interesting kind of a parity that had to do with the centers. So I'm going to navigate my way through this more to just kind of show what it can do. It moves really well. It does have kind of a V-cube clicky feel to it, and sometimes there's a little bit of a lockup, but very easily dealt with. So this is as much of a demonstration as anything. As you can see, it shapeshifts just like any type of Pyromorphinx or Master Pyromorphinx will do. So we're just going to go ahead and scramble this. I'll do a little bit of it just to demonstrate the movement of the puzzle. I usually like to do a couple of non-shape-shifting scrambles first, just to sort of get things moving here. A little bit here, a little bit here, and then we can kind of proceed more to the shape-shifting. Now this kind of shape-shifting, like I say, is more the radial single segment shape-shifting. It's not the full edges where I'm not really obliterating a side. I always have in front of me the centers, the edges, and the corners at the proper places. So it's not like the 4x4x6 or those type of shape-shifting where you kind of obliterate all that. Instead, what we're doing is we're just rotating sides, and we have to kind of keep that perspective. This tends to be more of a challenge than most of the others. You may think, well, if you can do a 7x7, you can do this. Sort of. You don't get the parities, because being even, you don't have any clue in terms of the internal structure. None of that's poking out. So you have the possibility of laying things in potentially the wrong direction. So it's actually more like a beefed up version of the 4x4 than the actual 7x7, but it moves really well. Like I say, a little bit more clicky than the 7x7 version. So I'm going to take the scramble the rest of the way, and we'll pick it up from there. Abracadabra. Okay, very good. So now we're scrambled. So as you can see, even in the scrambled state, when it's in the pillowed form, it looks more like the cube form, but when it's in the rouleau form, it actually resembles more of a ball, just like the 7x7. So the first step is to get all of our centers, but bear in mind it is kind of like a supercube, so we have to make sure that our orientation is correct. So we'll start off with a green here. So here's green and yellow. So I'm just going to put it in exactly the same way. Now there are some advantages to this structure, which makes it a little easier than the standard supercube, which is kind of nice. We'll take any advantage that we can get. So here's a green that fits flush with it. Maybe over here, 1, 2. Okay, so this works pretty well here. So we've got this over here, and we just kind of follow suit, just like you saw with the other ones, layers. So this is all in over here. So we'll just slide this in at the proper place, right about here. So we've got this over here. So the first center rather, kind of whets our appetite a little bit. Green and yellow. Here's another green and yellow. Just make sure it's in the right configuration. Not exactly like that. So this is going to be an end slice right over here. Okay, so we'll get a series of greens, a sea of greens. And again, I've got a lot of different greens that I can choose from, many of which don't necessarily have to belong to any one layer in particular. That's what's appealing about this. Turn it here, and I need one that's a little bit raised. I need something maybe like this. This might fit the bill. Move this here, and move this across. So this is doing well here. So put this in, and bingo! Match this up here, and turn it in. So we're doing well. Have this corner here. and here. So you see the movement is actually pretty fun. I think of all the Mastermorphinx derivatives, the Megamorphinx, the Ultramorphinx, this is probably among my more favorite versions. Just because you have all the advantages of the challenge of a big cube, and then you've got all the challenges of parity and all that other good stuff. Comes here and comes here. Okay, so we have our first center over here. Now the question is, where do we go from here? Now remember the form of this. So this is going to be right next to another green one, and we have to keep our perspective, and that's going to be the biggest issue is in terms of perspective. We can oftentimes use these corners here to guide us where things are supposed to be. So if I had to use this corner as maybe a guide, I can maybe move this over here, green, yellow, white might go over here. In which case, along here, this is going to be green and white. So according to this corner piece, it will be green and white. Now I want you to remember the parity that I got into regarding the last two centers. So I'm going to see if I can avoid that by actually using the corners. As you recall, there was a rotational parity that we just didn't find with any of the other puzzles. It was interesting, but pretty complicated to fix. I want to see if I can avoid that. So here's the yellow and green. So I'm just going to move this in and compare it to where it's going to have to face. So I'm going to just start loading in this center here. Just going to start finding greens. And again, the advantage, the fun part of this puzzle is that there's a lot of greens that I can choose from. So I'm just going to look for one that's raised up a little bit to match that. And here's a green over here. Is this going to fit the bill? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, maybe. Turn it in and yep, fits the bill just fine over here. So now that I've moved it in, turn it, and move this part back. So again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just doing the standard big cube solves. So here's the green. Now I'm going to look for 3 whites. Most of this is just to demonstrate the motions, demonstrate the movements of this. Okay, this one looks like it might fit the bill. So turn, yep, turn, move it out, turn it back. Like I say, there's nothing like handling a handmade puzzle. Okay, let's find another white. Here's another white that kind of fits flush. So we'll move this here. I think if I get a carpal tunnel syndrome, I'm going to name it after these puzzles. Turn it here, here, and, well, that's all we probably have to do. There's nothing here that we have yet. Okay, so we've got this line over here. We'll just kind of put things into perspective here. So this comes across here. So now let's look for another center here. Need one more white here. This one looks like it'll fit the bill. Could have fit the bill with this one too, but you snooze, you lose. This comes here. Turn and back. Okay. So now we just have to put it into here without messing this side up. That shouldn't be a problem. Turn it like so, and turn it like so. Okay, so we have both sides over here. And now it's just a matter of putting the next one in. So let's say this was the one on top. This is the next one here. I'm going to go to the next one over just because I know that it's going to be a green one. And there's only one green one left at this point, which is green and red. Now this I have to do a little bit differently because I'm going to be bumping into 2 sides. They're going to be at right angles to each other. So let's see how we're going to do this. Well, let's put this in first. We'll put a center in here just to orient ourselves. 1, 2, and turn this out. Okay, this is going to be oriented like this. So this is how we're going to do it. So with that said, I'm going to look for a green one here, and I'm just going to put this in here exactly where it's at. So that wasn't much of a problem. We see we have this over here, so let's find another one. Now, what I'd recommend at this point is not to do another center, because to do that, we're going to have to roll it in and exchange it, so it's not going to be upright. So we're going to want to do some sort of an end piece over here. It's going to become more clear as to why, and anyone who solved 6x6s or 5x5s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or maybe not so much because you don't have the supercube mentality with that. But let's put another one in. Let's put an end slice over here. Let's first match up to how it's going to fit in. So we'll just turn it here and turn this so that it's coordinated, just so I can know how I'm putting it in. So I'm going to coordinate it like this. This is going to come into here. Now the reason that I did that is I want to roll this side into here. The correct place that it goes is it's going to come into here. So watch how easy this is. I just move it in, then I double turn it and move it out. So I was able to do that in this case, but notice I can't roll it in like this from now on, because then I'd roll it in, turn it, then I'd end up rolling this out. So I have to do it a little bit of a different way now. Kind of have to variate it, which is somewhat unique for this puzzle. But let's look at this configuration over here. Notice that we have these two that are in place. So this is a middle one, so I know that it's going to come in. It's going to come in like this. It's going to come in like that. So how am I going to get it in there without messing everything else up that that I did? Well, I have to move it in by a technique that we've gone over before. I'm going to move it like this and move it like this. And this is going to come into here like this and start to create this side. So here's what I mean by that. I'm going to move it in, so I'm basically creating this side over here. Then what I'm going to do is once I've created this this side over here, I'm going to turn it out of the way and move that side that I created out of the way like so. Okay, then I got to turn it back and place back the side that I moved out of the way, which is here. Then I'm going to turn it back and place the side that I just created. Bang. And so that put that in. The end result of that is this, and this is maintained, but we've now hooked that one in there. Now, most of you guys probably already know how to do that, but it's something that I find very useful if you've not seen that before in terms of placing things. So I need a string of greens. Do I have a string of greens that I can place the same way? It's got to be two in. These two might be that string of greens that I would need. So let's actually move this out. Turn, turn, turn. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to associate these two with each other. If I can. I might not be able to. I spoke too soon. So these two are in. Turn and turn. So what was I going to do with these two? Well, I'm going to turn it like this. And these two are going to create the rest of this side here. So I move these two in. Now, bear in mind I'm moving these two layers. So when I turn this to move it out, it's got to be one of these two layers. So let me demonstrate that. These two come in, and I've created this side. I've bumped these two layers out of the way. So now I'm going to turn this. Get my click there. I'm going to turn this and now bump this side out of the way. And I'm not going to mess up anything that I did before. So this gets turned out of the way from this side. Now I got to place this layer back after I turn it like so. Place these two layers back. So you can see that's in. And then I'm going to place back in the layer that I created, which is just over here. So that places that in over there. And I'm just going to follow suit. Now I just have to put in this entire side over here, and I want to create as much of the layer as I can. It's got to be 2 by 2. Because if I put these two in, I'm going to have to create the layer and move it out of the side. So actually I can probably even put 3 in. Let's see if it works. So crazy, it just might work. So let's find the last of that's over here. And just to confirm how this is going to roll in here, well, it's going to roll in like this. Just like that. So let's find a string of 3 reds that I can use. Okay, now that I've got these 3, I know that I can put in a string of 3 because I'm going to isolate it to a specific side. So let's see what the heck I mean by all that. I can't roll it in the way that I did before, so I have to do it this way. So all of these 3 is going to come in to start creating this over here. So these 3 layers are going to move like this. Shebang. Boy, that moved a lot out. So now I'm going to turn it and move it out with this layer here. So turn what I just created, bump it out of the way. Now turn this back, put in these 3 layers that I bumped out of the way, bang, so all that's back. Then I turn this back and place the layer that I created right here. So you can see that as long as I position it right, it won't be a problem. Now all I got to do is put the other red one in. If I can find one, here's one over here. Probably comes over here. So now I can get real complicated with this and go 1, 2, that's in. I moved it in through here, put it here, turn it like so, turn it back, but I got to go 1, 2 to bring it back, turn this like so, and bring it in. And there it is. Probably a review for most of you. But as you can see, we've got sort of a first proto layer over here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue to put in the rest of the centers, but I'm going to kind of get things started with this, show how that happens. So what comes next? What do I put in next? Well, as I look here, this is going to be a yellow here, and this is going to be a red. So it stands to reason this side is going to be yellow and red. Now the good news with these is I don't have as many centers to put in. But I do have to pay very close attention to how I place the last two. So here's a yellow and red over here. Let's just move this into place. We'll go turn, turn, and turn. Now let's coordinate this so that we don't get ourselves confused in terms of where this goes. So this lines up to here, this lines up to here. So because of that, when I put this in, I'm just going to put the yellow one up here. I got a whole string of yellows. This gets turned in, 2 at a time. So, gotta get that click. So this layer is now in. Turn it to move it out from this layer, since that wasn't touched. Turn it back. These layers back. Turn it back here, and this comes back. All right, so we're cruising. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna continue to follow suit, and I'm going to continue to get everything except for the last two, well, what do you know? I've got everything but the last two layers. Just kind of snuck up on me, didn't it? Cool. So let's discuss strategy. I can do one of two things. I can walk into the parity and fix it, or I can show you how I avoid that very curious parity that we got with the even numbered ones. So with these last two layers, what I need to make sure is that they're coordinated the right way. The only way to do that is to make sure that the corners are going to guide me with that. Now if I don't do that now, I tell you what I'm going to do, let me just coordinate it with the centers and just show you what happens if I don't coordinate it with the corners. When I just did the 4x4, it was just the center that I had to deal with, but imagine putting in the entire thing and having to do the whole thing over again. It's doable, but takes a long time and it's kind of frustrating. So what belongs here? Well, what's going to belong here is going to be the red and white, because obviously this is the red over here, and this is the white over here. So let's kind of get things a little bit where they're supposed to be. Here's a red over here, so turn, turn, and turn. Okay, so here's a red and white, and it obviously is supposed to be facing like this. All right, here's the other red and white. This is already in, so I could very easily place these little centers here. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide this into a couple sections, put these in the way that I solved all the supercubes in terms of the last centers, and then put these extended layers over here. You saw a very elongated version of that with a 7 layer. But we're going to do it again because it's fun. So I'm going to move this in like so, double turn, and move it back. So this is going to be kind of my basis of comparison layer, this over here. So now we take a look at what's over here. Now remember what our 3-cycle algorithm is. The 3-cycle algorithm is going to move this to here, this to here, and this to here, while this one doesn't change. And the good news is that I can interchange these white pieces. So unlike the other supercubes, I actually have some wiggle room with these, which also provides the possibility of the parity, I believe. But let's see what happens. Now because this is all in, I may want to hold it like this, because less is going to actually be affected with the top layer. So I'm going to turn this actually like this because it's so much easier to coordinate two whites together. These two, notice, are kind of coordinated well, but let's put a white down here. The way that I'm going to do that is, I suppose, I could move it like this. What's going to happen is this white is going to come to here, this white's going to come down here, and this is going to move over here. And that's going to put this as being solved, because this is going to be yellow and white, and there's going to be a white one over there. So that algorithm, as you recall, is going to be, this is going to be R over here. I'm just going to slice it with the center over here. So R UI LI U RI UI LI, and lo and behold, and then this actually gets turned back with a UI. Lo and behold, it appeared that this didn't get affected only because we switched it with a white, and this came in, and this came in. So now I'm going to turn this over here. This becomes my solved area. So now that I have that, what I may want to do is now move it to over here. Because ultimately I'm going to try to move this over and maybe exchange with another white. Nah, okay. Bad idea. Bad idea. So, okay, so these are in over here. So what's going to happen is this will come here, this will come here, and this will come here. Now, is that really what I want to do? Alternatively, what I could do is, if I do this again, this will come here, this will come here, this will come here. Yeah, so I'm just going to sort of exchange things for the purposes of moving this along here. So, same algorithm. This is just basically that switch algorithm that we've seen variations of that before. Okay, and this comes back over here. I'm going to move this up to here. This will move down, and this will move here. Back. Back. Boom. Boom. Bang. Pow. Okay, so this got transported up here. Now what do I want to do? This side is in. This will come here and solve it. This will come here. This will come here. What if I do it twice? Twice, this will go 1, 2, be where it needs to be. 1, 2, be where it needs to be. 1, 2. Thus is the advantage of having two equivalents over here. So I'm going to do the algorithm twice, and both of these inner portions of the center should be in. So first time, boom, boom, bang, pow, splat, plop. Okay, we have to remember to turn this again. So now you can see what's going to happen. With the next maneuver, everything is going to be turned just right. Forward, back, back, bang, bang, plop, and blang. So very good. These are in place, and these are in place. So it appears that the centers are fine, and this can act as our keystone. Let's just move these back into place here. You can see our red and our little proto-red over here, our white, proto-white, and everything else is in. So for all set and purposes, I should be able to move on to do the next layer, but let's not be so hasty, because I may have a parity here, so I'm going to stop at this point.